our program, our service at the Christian Village Church in Forked River, New Jersey. And you've joined us for a Sunday morning in the hidden teachings of Jesus Christ. And we're going to just spin the camera for a moment and say a great big hello and a wave to Cecil Sandstrom and his family down in Boca Raton, Florida. So would you just lift your hand and raise to everybody down there, Boca Raton, Florida? Okay, good deal. We're at a situation right now which is just as horrible as it could possibly be. And yet we have been meditating for weeks so that there would not be a war. We've surrounded the Iraqi soldiers with light and the American soldiers, and Mr. Hussein and President Bush did everything possible sending forth this light. And I couldn't understand it, and I had no explanation to people. Why, in this age of Aquarius, this age is coming of peace, could such a thing happen? And the weapons, my God, the tremendous power which is beyond comprehension. Planes flying 3,000 miles an hour that can put a rocket right through your front door or right down your chimney. I mean, absolutely beyond comprehension. What a horrible thing this is. And I said in my meditation, I said, say something. Say something. And I found out. And I understand by all of the meditation, by all of the prayers, there is a law. It's a universal law, it's a physical law, it's a law that when you make a cause, there's going to be an effect. And there is nothing in the world that can change that. And when I was listening to Al speaking about his child, what the Spirit told me was that once upon a time, in a land far away and long ago, there was a little boy named Saddam Hussein. And his mother and father and his church and his town warned him about you and told him that you were the enemy of God, and told him that your religion was a false religion, that you were infidels, that you were filled with the devil, that Jews were his enemy. And this little boy never knew that when he came from his mother's womb. This little boy never knew that as he sucked his thumb and played with his toys. Never knew that until people sat and began to teach him. That was the cause. Now there are people dying by the thousands. That's the effect. And who's on the other side of the fight? People who, as Mr. Bush was a little boy and began to learn that this is the only way, that Jesus is the only, and that God is on our terms, and that anyone else, especially those people over there, are pagans, and their God is evil, and stay away from anything that is Eastern thought, in the same way that they told Saddam Hussein, stay away from anything that is Western thought, because that's your enemy. Hare Krishna, it's laughed at, made fun of. Buddha, don't ever go near that stuff. It's evil. A person can't belong to the Jehovah's Witnesses without being considered a cultist by the main line here. That's the cause. And the cause is put in our heads when we're little children. And the effect is we carry our flags, and Mr. Bush goes to church with Billy Graham at the same time that Saddam Hussein is on his knees worshiping Allah. And after a while, when you no longer can talk to one another, words cease and bombs appear. It'll happen every time. It always will happen. And the Christians are excited because their philosophy is that this whole thing has been orchestrated by God. See? This is their Armageddon. How wonderful. And I have come on this platform Friday night, and I would stand in front of a bigger audience here today and tell God in front of these witnesses, if you plotted this, you are as big a monster as the minds down here that are acting it out. And that's the hideous part, that people who come into a church would actually even think for a moment that God in some way is connected with slaughtering men, women, and children. No, this all comes out of the evil place, the human mind. And it was placed into the minds of the combatants by their mothers and their fathers, by their churches, by their governments, by their schools, by their traditions. So who created it? We created it. And the only possible, you're going to kill Saddam Hussein. We got to get rid of Saddam Hussein. When we get rid of Saddam Hussein, you can't get rid of Saddam Hussein. You'll never kill Saddam Hussein. If you take Saddam Hussein up against and line him against the wall with a machine gun and blow him into 1,000,000 pieces, you'll never kill Saddam Hussein, because Saddam Hussein is not a person. Saddam Hussein is a belief. Saddam Hussein is an idea. Saddam Hussein is a religion. Can't kill it. You cannot kill it. Because if that physical body goes into the grave, another one will stand as Saddam Hussein, and he'll have a gun in his hand or a bomb in his plane. It'll never, ever stop until you mothers, you fathers, gather your children around and teach them the love of Hare Krishna. Teach them the love of the Muslims. Teach them the love of the Buddhists. Teach them the love of the Shinto. And get books and show them all of the different religions and traditions of people, and let them love and let them joy and let them come into a oneness with all people and all of these beliefs, and show them how much alike all of these things are with our Jesus Christ. Teach them that these are not enemies, these are our brothers, these are our sisters. This is the family of God. This is the family of the world. Bring them into a oneness, because religion has created a monster, and the monster now is killing people by the thousands, by separating people and by drawing lines of suspicion against people. That's what. Go to the Dalton's bookstore. Have little studies with your children. Show them what Hare Krishna is. Have little studies with your children. Show them what Buddha is. Show them what Muhammad is. Show them all the wonderful things of these men, of these people who were God consciousness. Instruct them. Bring them into a oneness. Share with them. And when a Krishna comes through, welcome them. Go take your children to them and welcome them and say, here, we're so glad to see you. Make friends with them. Don't allow your children to be afraid of somebody because they look different, or maybe their culture's a little different. All of this is all religion, because the human mind has created, I'm right, they're wrong, and you better stay away from them, because if they get too close to you, you could lose your salvation. So they become the enemy. So what? What do I do? Can I support the war? I follow Jesus Christ. I cannot. Buddha put it more beautifully. Buddha says, a Buddha has no fist. Do I publicly support it? No, I can't support the war, because if I support the war, there's going to be millions of people who are against me. And then I will lose my ability to talk to them about Christ and about that inner blessings of nirvana. I can't do it. Am I going to go out against the war? No. Because when I do that, there's going to be millions of people against me, and I can't talk to them. So I have to talk about one thing. What is the cause of it? The lunacy of our minds and our traditions and our cultures, where we have separated one from another. And I will teach about Christ, and I will teach about Krishna, and I will teach about Buddha, and I will teach about Muhammad, and I will teach about Zoroaster, and I will teach about God and the kingdom that dwells within, that which is the blessedness, that which is the oneness of all. And I will stop frightening our children and separating our children from other cultures and other nations and other religious thought, and bring everybody into a oneness. As Jesus Christ prayed, I pray they may all be one. And as Jesus Christ also said, I have flock other than this one. And the world must know there is one flock and one shepherd. So now you double your meditation. You do as much as you can to meditate, but you start by getting the word out of love and express love for these people. There are Iraqi people dying by the thousands whom you could love. You don't know who they are. There are American soldiers that you're cheering for whom you could kill. There are Iraqi people that we're killing whom you could love. Because it's people. And when you are really following God, you have to wave that banner of Christ consciousness. That's the only banner you can lift. And I instruct you, don't join any demonstrations against or for. Only one demonstration you can join, and that's to lead people into this oneness of Christ. Join a world demonstration of unity. Join a world demonstration of love. Join a world demonstration that embraces all life, human life, animal life, that which is nature itself. Embrace it all. But understand where it came from. It came from the same place that the wars that happen in your home came from. What you put into the minds of little children. As Buddha said, it may, when you put the cause, the effect may not happen today. It may not happen next week. It may not happen next year. But it will happen. And when you put that thought into the head of a little child, one day that little child will go strong enough to lead an army. And he'll carry that thought of hate with him and build it and build it and build it. And then you'll see what you see now. The absolute insanity of thousands of people killing each other over they don't know what. Yeah. Excuse me, you have to stand up and look.
We just purchased a program through an advertisement in the New Age magazine that is aimed at the pre-primary age group, which is 4 on up. And it teaches exactly what you were saying. It teaches of all of the different world men, Krishna, Buddha, and it goes through each of them. It teaches the children meditation. It has a little program for them to do. It has a little story. It's a meditation, and it's really a beautiful program. They talk about the age of Aquarius in it, and it's just a universal program. It's beautiful, and we just started that today with the children.
Great. That is wonderful. You see, you have to understand something. When you read your Bible and you read it literally, you read about God saying to Joshua, go in and slaughter the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Shiites and all of those kind of stuff. That's Saddam Hussein's bunch. It's the enemy. See? That's a spiritual description. It's allegorical, and when you take it literally, as Paul says, it kills. It kills. And that's what we've done. So we have to meditate. We have to get this word out. We have to get people to understand we're making the causes into our minds and in the mind. And you have to, first of all, get down and look at Saddam Hussein, whom many of you hate, many of you look as a madman. Understand why he feels the way he does after so many years of this into his mind. And get down and absolutely and totally forget. Look beyond that man into the center of Saddam Hussein's head where Christ dwells. And don't misunderstand what I'm saying, because the one who became the main apostle of Christ was as much of a terrorist with different kind of weapons that Saddam Hussein would ever. His name was Saul, and he used to slaughter people just for the fun of watching them die because of their religion. You've got to start thinking in ways that are above this insanity, because this is just another war. Of everyone that's come and gone since you've been alive, they've never stopped, and they never will until we start putting love of all people, of all races, of all cultures into the heads of our children instead of hate and separation. Because if you don't, it'll just be one war leading to the next one, and another one, and another one, and another one. So we have to, now that it's started and now that it's going on, we have to somehow bring to bear upon it this meditation to try to rationalize it into the minds of our own and our minds of our children. And gosh darn it, that's why I'm saying it's so important what you said. Yes, get your children to meditate. I don't care how screwy they think it is. I don't care how screwy they think. Your alternative, you think that's screwy. People sitting on the floor kicking their shoes off and saying, Om is screwy. What's not screwy? Shooting guns? That's normal. Raise the flag and drop a bomb? You know, it's so amazing because what you do, you'll go in, a friend will die, a relative will die, you'll come to the funeral parlor. And you got your little Bible, and you're crying, everybody's crying, and there's flowers that smell so nice. This is so, and they all go in a car, and they march so slowly. Here's an airplane coming out of the sky at 3,000 miles an hour. A guy pushes a button, off he flies. They bring pictures back on television. Wow, the technology is tremendous. And there is 1,000 little babies and little mothers and children laying in pieces. Nobody even knows they ever lived. You cannot be a follower of Christ and a follower of that. But you don't join it, you don't oppose it. You push and you push and you push only one thing, Jesus Christ. Because when you oppose it, you're going to get people arguing with you and you're never going to be able to tell them about the inner kingdom. Remember that. You've got to have people who are on your side. The Apostle Paul said, when I'm with the Jews, I act like a Jew. When I'm with the Gentiles, I act like a Gentile. I'll agree with them, whatever you want to do. Talk to them about this, about the inner kingdom. It's got to stop. You're going to be proud of what anybody's doing, but it's got to stop. Because now let me say something. Here's a situation where Israel has learned, and we've all seen it. Any rinky-dink little country, no matter how bad you bash their head in, have the ability to get one missile through and put it in your backyard. And that thing could have had a nuclear warhead on it. It's got to stop. There's no room for another one of these things. Well, hopefully. You know, it's very hard sometimes because when you're a traditional person, you're brought up and raised, and then all of a sudden you run into Jesus Christ, but you know he's right, and you know you've got to march to the beat of a different drummer. You've got to. You've got to bring life back and end death. We're at Matthew 22. It's on page 23 of those little Bibles, and of course I did take did I take a few? I guess I took a few minutes of them. Yes, about 20 minutes. But so we'll do a little bit. And I thank all of you for coming here, and I thank all of you for supporting this effort, being part of it. Matthew 22. And here's a situation where the religious people are trying to trick Jesus. You remember? Matthew 22, verse 15. Pharisees took counsel how they might entangle him in his talk, and they went out and said with the Herodians, who represents the lower mind, we know you are true and teach the way of God. You don't care for any other man. And verse 17, tell us therefore, what do you think? Is it lawful to give tribute unto Caesar or not? In other words, what they're saying to him is, since you feel that the government isn't important and it's wrong, then you probably feel it's okay not to support it. See? They're trying to nail him. They're trying to nail that kind of thought, see? In the same way here, if I speak and say, this is wrong, then would I be justified in telling you, because you are a follower of Christ, don't pay your taxes anymore to support war efforts? Or anything? Can I tell you that? And Jesus is answering that. See, because if Jesus says, yes, you're right, the government is wrong, then he is no longer preaching a divine spiritual revolution. He is preaching a political revolution. See? I am not here to preach a political revolution. I'm here to preach a spiritual revolution. But see, the trick here is what they're trying to say. Look, if man and his laws are evil, then would not it be spiritually evil to support this? And it's not only limited to man and his governments, it's limited to you and your head. What do you got to pay attention to, see? And Jesus is trying to get you off the hook because you can come here, you can come to church, and you got Bibles, and you got all of this stuff, but some of you will, like, when you're on your free time, to get stoned. who are you listening to? You're listening to that which is the physical aspect of your being. And you respond to it. You may get drunk. You may smoke 4 or 5 packs of cigarettes a day. You may go here, you may go there, you may do all of these different things that you do. And you're responding to a law. You're responding to a physical law which is at work in your body and which is referred to here in the Bible as Caesar. Caesar represents that part of you that says, this is what you're going to do. So it doesn't make any difference whether you agree with it or not, you're going to do it. And you can sit here and look at me and you can be very religious and very holy and you can have all of these Bibles, but when your mind tells you to feel this way, you feel that way. There's nothing you can do about it. You may not read your Playboy. You wouldn't bring your Playboy magazine down here, but you got it hidden out in your bathroom probably or shoved under the telephone book or somewhere where nobody will ever know that you've got it, but you've got it. I heard some whispering in the second row. He knows I got one. There are laws that are active in your mind which come from world. There are laws that are active in your mind that come from a higher place. So we define Caesar, see, because what do they say? In verse 17, is it lawful to give tribute to Caesar? Okay. So Caesar represents your material obligations. Caesar represents those things of the body that you've got to respond to. Caesar represents those habits, see. But you got to understand something. There's another part of you that is consciousness. That has nothing to do with Caesar. It has nothing to do with whether you drink or whether you smoke or whether you sex or whether you run around or whether you do this or do that or do the other thing. It has nothing to do with that. It doesn't respond to the urges of the flesh whatsoever. There's a part of your consciousness which is separate. It is the center part. It is the tabernacle. It is the holy place. It is what Buddha called nirvana. There is a separate place. And you can't mix the two. So your position in society, you've got to live here, you've got to own your house, or you've got to rent your house, and you have to pay for this, and you've got to obey the laws, you've got to stop for the traffic lights, you've got to pay your taxes in order to get the benefits. If you want to go to a church and become a member of the church, you've got to pay them, you've got to do what they say in order to get the benefits. You've got to do that. And when your body comes to you and says you're going to do this particular thing, you're going to do it. It's like the Apostle Paul says, why do I do the things that I know I shouldn't do? Did you ever know the Apostle Paul said, what the heck was he into? Now abide faith, hope, and love, and woo, what's he into? Because he says, why do I do the things that I know I shouldn't do? And then he goes on, well, the fact that I do those things when I know they're wrong means that it's not me that's doing them, it's the sin that's doing them. Is it a cop-out? No, it's not a cop-out, because your mind is a separate entity from you. Saddam Hussein has just as much Christ in the center of him as you or I do any day of the week. But there is something that has been impregnated in his mind from that which is the lower, which is causing this turmoil. So rules and regulation, church rules and regulations. But Jesus recognizes this because they come up to him and they said, oh, sir, you with the long hair. We don't mind long hair in here. In fact, we like it. And your sandals are a little, but they're nice. Where'd you get that robe? Listen, we hear a lot of good things about you, fella. Let me ask you a question. And we know that you tell the truth. And we know that you don't really care about anybody's station in life. You're a fine guy. We know this. I mean, we know this. And Jesus turns around in Matthew 22:18 and said, what are you tempting me for, you hypocrite? In other words, why don't you tell me what you really think? I mean, come on, have the guts to say what you really think. Have the guts to come up to me and say, hey, long hair, look at your rotten sandals and your dirty clothes and you're hanging around. What are you, a bunch of homos? You're hanging around with all these guys all the time? Why don't you say what you really think? Say. Don't give me this religious crap Tell me what's really on your mind. What are you trying to say? Boy, he was something. I said, give me the money. Give me the money you're so hooked on. Give me the money you're telling me about. Show it to me here. So some guy's got a, well, let's see, you got any, loan me a denary, will you? I had one, I'm a little short. My wife went to the, stoning the other day, and she wanted to get a front row, and you know how much they charge for front rows at the stonings. So he takes a coin. In Matthew 22:20, he says, whose picture's on there? In other words, that piece of money is stamped with the name and the picture of the owner. Here, in that time, it was Caesar. Here, it's the U.S. government. That's who the money belongs to. The material belongs to the government. The material aspects belong to the government. Don't you understand? Those urges that you get to do the things you do belong to the government of your body. Get it? The urges that you get to do the things that you do belong to the government of your body. I don't really care if you're working in a sewer, if you're flying a plane, if you are an evangelist, if you're the Pope, if you're a bishop. It doesn't make any difference what you are. The government of your body is responsible for putting those feelings into you that cause you to do the things that you do. And everybody does them. That's why the Bible says there is not one who's righteous. Not one person escapes this feeling and doing things with the door closed. You do things with the doors closed or someplace that you would not do. If somebody, if I was to, can you imagine if we put our thoughts for this week on the screen like we did the songs and say, here's Laurie's thoughts for this week. And we would see Laurie tiptoeing out the door as fast as she could. After we got done with Laurie's thoughts, Rich Toohey's thoughts would go on the board. Her thoughts would go on the board. Her thoughts would go on the board. Why? Because you do these things. And you can look at me and say, oh, this isn't, yes, but it is true. It is true. Because that's the way the mind works. And that's why the Bible says in Romans 8:7, and you should look at it sometime, that the human mind, the carnal mind, is not subject to the law of God, neither can it be. That means that nobody commits sin. Nobody commits sin. Sin commits sin. So don't point fingers at people. Point fingers at the thing that caused them to do what they did. It is impossible to commit sin because according to Romans 8:7, the Apostle Paul says the human carnal mind is not subject to the law of God, neither can it be. And when you look at people and see the bad things that they do, just think to yourself, if I had the mind that that person has, could I do any different? Think about it. And you'll not be able to answer that question because you don't know what is screaming at them. And you'll never know. I'll tell you what horrors happen to people. Okay, I may not have lived in some of the circumstances that other people lived at, but I can tell you that I had a father who was an alcoholic. He was a fine man when he was sober. He designed the first floats for the Macy's in New York's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And I'll never forget coming home from school at the age of 13 years old, opening the door and seeing towards the bedroom would look like a lamp standing. And as I got closer, I saw my father hanging by his neck from a beam between that door. Whew. I ran right out the back door, ran to that. Did it have an effect? Bet your life it had an effect. How much of an effect did it have? And I got to be, young. I like to go out, have a few brews. Found myself starting to get drunk rather quickly. And then I met a beautiful lady, married to her, and she saw the symptoms, and she warned me every time that we had a party, how drunk I got, how quick I got drunk. And I'll tell you how I stopped, and there's some humor in this because I don't want to get too sad. I was so drunk one night that as I was trying to make my way back to the bedroom, I made a right turn at the wall. Hit the wall. And there was a great shelving of books. American presidents, history of the human race, and the whole thing came right down on my head. How many years ago was that? About 20 years ago. I never, ever touched anything since that time. Never would. But yet when that happened and when I would lay there and recovering from that drunk period of that night, that picture would come in my mind of that form hanging in that doorway. It had an effect. And I don't know that maybe because God had me set to do this, that man was sent to do that. Huh? Because if he had not experienced that, I might not be experiencing this. Okay? Called in Buddha karma. And it works. It works. And so Jesus then looks at this and he says, look, in Matthew 22:21, render to Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things which are God. What he's saying to you is not only do you pay your taxes and do all of these things that you have to do, but when you have to respond to the thoughts of your mind, which gets you into a situation where you do something that you're not very proud of, you may get a guilty conscience about it. He says, okay, but there is another part of you, and that part of you is the God part of you. That part of you is the tabernacle deep within you. And after you have rendered to Caesar, after you have rendered to your flesh and you feel so bad about it and so guilty about it, go and render to God the things that are God's. Bring yourself up into that holy place within. Allow the doors at the right hemisphere to swing open. Allow that which is the peace, the bliss, the blessedness of nirvana to touch you. Allow that which is the white dove of nothingness to surround you, and render to God the things that are God. No matter what you do, no matter how bad you feel, no matter what people say about you, there is a part of you that is dwelling within, which is God. That's why God's name is I am. Moses said to him, what's your name? He said, I am. And I love to say to people, when I ask them, who is the President of the United States? And they say, George. Gee. No wonder we're in a war. Who is the President of the United States?
George Bush.
Who is God?
I am.
That's the secret. That's the secret. Don't you understand it? It's not that God, you are God. It's God is you when you will allow him to be. When you render to God, that part of you which is the God part of you, when you raise your consciousness above thought, when there is no thought, there is no you. When there is no thought, there is no fear. When there is no thought, there is no guilt. When there is no thought, there is no apprehension. There is no concern. There is no devil. Devil is nothing more than the word evil with a D on the beginning of it. That's all it is. And God is simply the word good with an O missing. It's good versus evil. It's the higher against the lower. And Jesus is saying you're going to have to render to the lower. You're going to have to submit to those emotions. You're going to have to submit to those temptations. That's okay. Don't let them make you guilty. Remember to render also to God what is God, and he'll make a way. He'll make a way. There'll be a storm. There'll be a hurricane in your life. And it will churn around you, and it will damage, and it will hurt things of your life. But remember something. In the center of every hurricane is a single eye. And in the eye of the storm, the sky's always blue. And it's always calm. There's never a ripple of wind. And there in that nirvana, you can sit. And there, you can be refreshed and lifted up, totally forgiven and restored. And then at the end of this, Matthew 22, 21, whatever, 22, 22, when they heard these words, they marveled. And they left him and they went their way. Jesus was just saying your spirit is not at war with your physical. It can't change the physical until first it changes that which is the conscious part. So go ahead. Do your thing. Try to take care of yourself physically. The things that hurt your body and hurt your mind, try not to do them. Don't get in guilt when you do. Go ahead. But be certain to render that right side of you to God. When you shut down the left side, you turn on the right side. You cast your energy to the right side. And there will be a new society. There will be a new generation. There will be a new age of Christ within and without. And there will be no more people who, like we have been, look at the people of the Eastern religions as pagans. There will be people who embrace them as children of God. There will be no more people of the East who look at us as evil and infidels, but they will embrace us as children of God because the minds will be changed. The minds will be renewed by the consciousness which is God. This is what will stop. I want you to go now with me to this holy place in just a minute. And you've been very patient. It won't take much of your time. Let me say goodbye to everybody at home. Thank you for sharing this time with us at the Christian Village Church in Forked River, New Jersey. Let me ask you to do me a favor. When you finish with this tape, would you please send it on to the next person right away? Send the card back to Mary. And that little sheet of paper that's in, would you please put that back into the tape box before you send it on? The other thing I'd like to ask you is the only way that we can continue this is we send a monthly envelope, and it has a little hidden meanings teaching in it, and an envelope. And if you could consider putting something in that, then that would be great. So if you'd like to get in on that and say, send me the envelope, you can call the number. That'll come on the screen or whatever. And if you can't do it this month, maybe the next month. And if you can't do it the next month, as I said, Don Kerper's here, and he'll put it in for you. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you a little bit later in the tape. Okay. Hi, welcome back to the Christian Village Church in Forked River, New Jersey. And you've joined us for a Sunday evening, and we're going to explore the book of Revelation. In fact, we've come to the very last chapter of the book of Revelation, chapter 22. So, welcome, and we're glad to have you with us. Each week we try to salute and say hello to somebody on our family network in a different part of the country. And today we're going to go out to Iowa City, Iowa. And there's a fellow out there by the name of Jim Farr, and I have a very special guest, Jim. This is a budding Tina Turner, I understand, and she's going to come up and make her debut. Lydia, you want to come up, and you get a good picture of Lydia? Get a good close-up of her now. Can you see Lydia? You want to say hello to Jim?
Hi, Jim.
All right. All the way out in Iowa City, Iowa. Wow. That's really nice. Okay. Revelation 22. Now, to kind of set the stage for you here, when you look at the book of Revelation, and I'm not asking you to believe anything. There's no need to believe anything. That's ridiculous. How can I prove it? I mean, what are you going to believe? Can't believe anything. I'm not asking you to do that. Buddha said, I will not believe anything until I know the truth. I usually tell people, and there's a beautiful pair of sneakers looking me in the face here, lining up the front row. I said, none of you can see your feet. However, you have not faith that you have them in those shoes. You know it. Why? Because you can feel it. It's part of you. It's alive. And that's the way this has to be. So you'll know truth when it comes from within you. When it's right, you'll know it. I'm not going to be able to convince you of anything. And you should not be convinced by anybody of anything. Say. Because then you're going to latch on to somebody else's opinion. And that's no good. So you have to then allow these seeds to come and allow it to circulate throughout you and see how you put it together, see how it fits. But what I'm giving you or offering to you is the metaphysical approach and the mystical approach and the Eastern approach to biblical symbolisms, which puts the book of Revelation not as a book of wars that happen on the outside, but of a book of wars that happen on the inside. Okay? And the cities and the nations and all of these symbols represent various types of things and organs of the body. The master builder of the temple turns out to be the master gland of the body, of the master gland of the brain, which is the pituitary gland. And we can go on and show you things like that. But here when you say, and he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. Okay? The initial thing is for you to think of something that's kind of like a Walt Disney, you know, with castles and crystal waters coming down and stars and little Bambis eating grass and all of this kind of stuff. And isn't it nice? It has nothing to do with this. It's a symbol of the divine life, the divine energy, that throbbing vibration which pours down from the right hemisphere of your brain, from that higher consciousness which you have turned loose through the instructions of Jesus Christ, the single eye, and then here comes down from the throne. The throne is the higher mind. That word throne means higher mind. Okay? It's interesting how so much in Christian religion talks about a crown. I'm going to wear a crown. There's a lot of these gospel songs, you know, that say, I'm going to wear a crown, I'm going to wear a crown. And these people think they're actually going to wear a crown. Well, a crown is the fifth stage of consciousness in ancient Hebrew, which means the highest state of the human mind. That point where you reach up to the highest nature of your very being. When you lift yourself above the four stages of your mind and raise yourself up to the fifth, you've reached the crown. And that's what it means. So the flow from the higher mind is divine energy. And that flow, look at it, it's pure river. You know, it's always a river. It's not a lake because it's not stagnant. It's moving, 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 and a river can cut its way through any obstacle that comes in your path. No matter what wall comes to set itself in front of you, that river, if you give it enough time, will blast its way right through. It'll just eat its way right through, carving out grand canyons, whatever is necessary. And it's a pure river. It can be a pure river when it is unstained. It's a virgin river. It's a virgin mind. It is unstained by human thought. That river, that vibration, that consciousness that flows through you, that comes from that higher place, is unstained by anything that is human. Any of the negativity. It's beautiful. And so we're reaching a point in chapter 22 of the book of Revelation where we have gone through all of the trials and all of the tribulations and all of the struggles. And now we've reached this place of nirvana when finally from that higher realm of glory within us comes this movement which we call God. We've already gone through Armageddon. And Armageddon, which is God sending fire from heaven to destroy the earth, is true. But understand it. Heaven is your higher mind. Heaven is your higher consciousness. The fire is the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit comes from the higher mind to destroy the earth, which means all of that negativity and fear and all of that which is holding you down, which has held you in bondage all of your life, it is burned away by the power of the Spirit. So Armageddon is good. Armageddon is wonderful. Armageddon is beautiful because God is love, and God and love can hurt nobody. Now, I don't know. I mean, between, you know, starting nuclear wars and sending fire down on people's heads, this guy is not the kind of guy I want to hang out with, you know, following the dictates of religion, but that's not what it is. You can't take this literally. This is written by the people of the East. Look at page 486 in your little Bibles in the Old Testament. For the rest of you, go to Psalm 46. Page 486 in the Old Testament in that little Bible. And the rest of you, go to Psalm 46. I wanted you to notice one thing, too. That river is like of crystal. The throne of God is like crystal. I don't have my crystal with me, but you should have a crystal. That's right, you should. And if they say you're nuts, you're going to get your crystal out? All right, that's good. You should have a crystal. A crystal, you know they put crystal in radio receivers to transmit. It carries energy. There you go. Crystals and eyeglasses, too. Did you say that? What do you know about crystals? You want to go on TV all over the country? Say, hello, Jim. Crystals and eye?
Crystals are in the eyeglasses as well as contact.
Right. So you can see clear. We have, on Tuesday night when we meditate here, we have a crystal bowl that as we rub around it, it sets up, oh, it's beautiful. So, and crystal, Albert will tell you about crystal. It has, tell about the 12 facets, the perfection of a crystal.
You just said it. Every crystal has 12 sides.
Every crystal has 12. Doesn't make any difference if it's that small or if it's as big of a house. It'll have 12, which is in line with the 12 signs of the zodiac and the 12 disciples and all of that kind of business. So crystal is very important. Psalm 46, and we'll go to verse 4. There is a river, and that's the moving energy of God within you, Okay? The streams whereof shall make glad the city of God. Okay? The streams are that which branch off within you. See? All of the energy. You see, it's interesting to understand how this happens. Okay. Nothing can happen to you unless something physical accommodates it. Because you're a human being. You're flesh and blood. It cannot be osmosis. If something of God is going to communicate with you, there has to be a way. Your brain can just not simply say, it's God. No, there has to be an activity. Something has to happen. There has to be an energy which communicates with the electromagnetic field of your brain to convey a message. Otherwise, it cannot work. God is a God of laws. Okay. Here's a part of you in your brain called the claustrum. Okay? That's the highest point in your brain. And from the claustrum comes a fluid which is called chrism. Now that fluid which is used in the sexual act in men and women. But this comes and it branches off, enters into the pituitary gland where it becomes a white milky substance. And when the mother breastfeeds, it's called claustrum. Enters into the pineal or pineal gland and becomes a yellow golden substance. And what the ancients said was as this fluid comes down into that which is the solar plexus, the area of bondage of the flesh, and the ancients in the Old Testament said, I will raise you from this to a land flowing with milk and honey. Okay. When you redirect that energy back upward. Now there's another interesting thing about this chrism that flows through your body. Chrism in Greek means Christ. So what is it? Christ coming down from the Heavenly Father, bringing you the gift of life, then through crucifixion of the five senses, that which is Christ is freed from the bondage of the lower mind. Christ raises himself back up to the Father's house and sits at the right-hand side where summer comes to your life. Okay? That's good. Oh, there's an interesting thing about this too. The ancients, knowing that the gift of life came from the claustrum, would call this the holy claustrum. It then became the holy claus. They then said it's Saint Claus. You call it Santa Claus. Bringing the gifts from the North Pole. Okay? I say, you don't have to believe it, but it's true anyhow. But so what I'm telling you is, this river of life then branches throughout your entire body. You are filled with chrism. You are filled with the oil of life. Therefore, you are filled with Christ. And you bring yourself to that point where by sacrificing or crucifying that which is the lower Jesus aspect of your flesh, you allow it then to rise back up to the Father's house. Now, as we told you before, that oil, which is also part, which goes into the sexual act, I instruct or ask people that a night or a day before you meditate to abstain from sexual intercourse. It's important because you raise that oil back up to the pineal where the ancients said the contact is made to light the lamp and light the way to the right hemisphere. Do you remember the 5 foolish virgins who had no oil in their lamp? The 5 wise virgins. And they signify your sight, taste, touch, smell, hearing. The 5 senses, oil in the lamp, so that when the Christ appears, there is oil. You're there to see. That's important. And it takes a little bit of discipline. It takes a lot of discipline for some people. A little discipline. One day. I'm not asking you to be celibate. I'm saying be a little prudent one day before your meditation so that there's some oil in the lamp and you can be there when the Christ arrives. You know, it's an interesting thing, and I'll show you a little bit of mystical symbolism in the Bible and how this works. If you remember, Jesus had come out of the tomb. That signifies you about to raise yourself up to the Father in meditation. Okay? What does Jesus say to Mary Magdalene? Do not touch me, woman, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. Okay? That's simply saying, cool it until you go upstairs to Daddy's house first. What are you pointing at her for? Okay. Now, I don't think really it should be that much of a struggle for everyone to put a little oil in the lamp for meditation. Me and Al have a problem. We meditate every day. Okay, you work out your own deal, okay? But I'm trying to tell you what I'm trying to get through to you in a way that might be a little bit of fun, but at the same time, the ancient mystics understood the human body and the human consciousness far better than we do today. And what they were simply saying is that God is not a hocus pocus somewhere. God dwells within you. Follow the instructions of the ancients and your Bible and enter within yourself and allow that energy to raise itself. And there is an anatomical way in which you will turn on that which is God consciousness within you and be part and one with him. It has to be done in a physical way because you're a physical person. You know. So Psalm 46:4, the streams, and we talked about that chrism, which branch off Psalm 46:4, the streams shall make glad the city of God. That's your mind. The city of God, the city in mysticism is always your mind. See, that's why Jesus, when talking about the Aquarian age that we're entering into right now, said, when you enter the city, you will see a man with a pitcher of water. In other words, this is the time to enter into consciousness, the time of Aquarius. Enter into the house. Go to the upper room, which is the higher mind, and I will meet you there. Okay. There is this river, the streams whereof shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of what? The tabernacles of the Most High. That's the dwelling place. Come on, don't be sitting and thinking that there's some God somewhere sitting up on a planet while the world is going down the toilet, looking down there saying, boy, that's really screwed up, Jesus. Take a look at it. Come on. You're flying around on a planet going 40,000 miles an hour. Ain't nobody driving it? Where are you going? And it's a funny thing. Everybody's looking for security. What kind of a security you got living on a tennis ball going 40,000 miles an hour through space with nobody driving the thing? You got no security. But you have one bit of security, because when you find your way to that high place within you, that highway within you, you become the driver. You become one with the great I am. That's why his name is I am, because you become God. And that'll get you in a lot of trouble with your friends. Are you saying, I am God? Exactly. What do I mean by that? Jesus Christ said, or the Pilate said, are you the king of the Jews? What did Jesus say? You say, I am. When they hung Jesus on the cross, they put a sign above his head, said, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. And in John 19, the chief priest says, you can't put that over his head. Pilate said, why not? He didn't say Jesus Christ, King of the Jews. He said, I am King of the Jews. Not the Jews over in Israel. Jew means that which is in the eastern side, in the right side, that which is within you. I am, that which is that part of you in which you can say, I. Not your physical mask that you're wearing in here and I'm wearing in here, that center part of you that you've never met. The part of you that lives on when the body leaves, or when you leave the body, that part of you that lives on. See? That's the I. That's the I. And you could say, and you know, it's a funny thing. That's a funny thing when Christians get all upset with this. I am God. What a magnificent thought. See? And she's God. And she's God. And she's God. Oh, God. We're all God. And you know, we all say, oh, don't go near those people. They think they're God. But you know what Jesus Christ said? Didn't the Scripture say ye all are God? And the Scripture cannot be broken. Why doesn't somebody pay attention to the man? See, I've only said what Jesus Christ said. People say, you teach reincarnation. I teach reincarnation because Jesus Christ said, you see that fellow sitting over there? You mean John the Baptist? Yeah, that's Elijah who was to come. If you have ears, listen. He knew of what he was talking about. But we have such a trouble in trying to believe Jesus Christ because we get so consumed in our own tradition. So here it says, the holy place of the tabernacle is the dwelling place of the Most High. Look what it says in John 14:20 on page 104 in your little Bibles. Okay, you're looking for God. Everybody's looking for God. We're looking outside. Where is he coming? This must be it. Saddam Hussein shooting his guns. Here comes Jesus and a hail of bullets. Whoops, here we go. This is it. No. What does it say? Where is God? You say God is up in heaven. That's true. The only thing you forgot is that up in heaven is in you. Inside of you. How do I know that? John 14:20. Okay? At that day, you shall know that I am in the Father, you in me, and I in you. Does it say that, or is it just in my book? Where is he? In you. Now, what about God? That's where Jesus is. Where's God? Well, let's take a look at 14:23. If a man loves me, he will keep my words, and my Father will love him, and we will come unto him and make our abode with him. That's a dwelling place. That's a tabernacle. That's what the tabernacle is. In you. See? God dwells in you. Once you are willing to forget what they think and what they have said, and then you can plug into what Jesus said and what he thinks and the truth, you realize that the dwelling place of God is right here between your ears. See? That's why it says in Exodus 25, God said to Moses, I will meet you between the wings of the cherubim. And the cherubim had two wings and two faces. One face was the face of a man, which is the intellect. The other face was the face of the lion, which is the spirit. And God was saying, I will meet you between your intellect and your spirit. In other words, I'll meet you right here between the wings of the cherubim. See? That's the most beautiful part. The most beautiful secret ever kept from mankind is that you are all Jesus Christ pretending to be somebody else. And my job is to expose you for who you really are. Amen. And that's good stuff. And I think that's exciting. And nobody can say that you're not, because so few have ever had the courage to go upstairs and open that door on the right side. 90%. We are all 90% ignorant, because that right side is the hemisphere of righteousness and of the place of God, the dwelling place of God. That's why Jesus said, cast your net to the right side. That's why it says they built the door to the holy place on the right side. So this impulse flows from the throne, which is the higher mind, from the Lamb, which is that place of the pineal gland of the brain. Okay? Now look in Revelation 22:2 again, if you would, for just a minute. Revelation 22:2. In the midst of the street of it. Now you can have two choices. You can believe that there is some place on some planet somewhere, or you can say, wait a minute, is he talking about me? In the midst, you know. And how do you have to prove? You don't have to prove anything to me. I don't want your money. You don't have to give me any money. You don't have to pledge any kind of allegiance. You don't have to sign any card. All I'm saying to you is, check it out within yourself. Check it out in the privacy of your own home. Check it out in the privacy of your own car. Stay by yourself. Don't go near anybody. Don't go near. You don't have to tell anybody anything. But what I am saying, reach up into that place and see what happens. And you'll find it. In the midst of it, in the midst of the street of it, now we're talking of human consciousness on a higher realm. Street is a symbol of pathway through those new areas which we're traveling. In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, there is the tree of life. Okay? There is the tree of life. The tree of life is the central energy to which we affix ourselves. So where is the tree of life? Now here's what I'll put this to you. Jesus Christ has said, cast your energy to the right side. Okay? It says when they built the door to the holy place in the temple, they put that door on the right side. Let's find the tree of life. If we can locate the tree of life. Okay? And then we'll quit. Where's the tree of life? Because here it says in Revelation 22:2 that in the midst of this, on either side of the river, the tree of life, which bears 12 manner of fruits. Okay, where is the tree of life? Go back to the first book of the Bible, the Genesis 2. And in Genesis 2, verse 8, what does it say? Because what I'm going to propose to you, that there is no such thing as a tree. The tree of life is actually a part of your brain. The tree of life is actually a part of your mind. Genesis 2, verse 8, okay? And the Lord God planted a garden. This is where this tree is, okay? Look at verse 9 first. Out of the ground made the Lord to grow every tree that is pleasant, and the tree of life. Do you see that in verse 9? Now, where did he plant it? The Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put man whom he had formed. There we have it, in Eden. This garden, this is gone, is planted eastward. Okay? And whenever you look north, east is on the right side. East is always on the right side whenever you look north, okay? Now, this vineyard, this garden, I would show you that in Psalm 80, verse 15, if you have a chance. Psalm 80, verse 15, which is on page 505 in those little Bibles. Psalm 80, verse 15. What does it say? And the vineyard. Now look at this, it's interesting, because this is where the tree is planted. And the vineyard, are you there? So, and the vineyard which your right hand hath planted. And the branch that you made strong for yourself. Well, you're going to turn around and say, well, the branch is Jesus Christ. But Jesus Christ says, no. I am the vine. You are the branch. And the branch which made strong for yourself, and that which you planted with your right hand, okay? So here then we understand that this is, again, referring to the right hemisphere of the brain. Now I want to show you something interesting. we get ready to wrap this up. In mysticism, much of the Bible revolves around this very interesting thing. The word Adam has a numerical value. When you understand Sanskrit, each letter has a value, and that value is 9. Okay? 9 then became the number of human consciousness in the Bible, because it means that which is the earth, that which is human consciousness. When you look in Revelation, you see the sign of the beast, and this is exactly the way they did it in mysticism. The sign of the beast is 666, okay? 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals? Let's try it again. 6, Lydia, would you come up here? Can you add up for me and tell me 6 plus 6 plus 6 is how much? Try it again, Lydia. 18. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, how much is 1 plus 8?
9.
Very good. Tell them all. How much is it?
9.
Yes, isn't this you do good? Okay. What I'm trying to tell you is if you would like to see a picture of the beast, when you leave this room, go into the bathroom. There's one hanging right over the sink. Now it says, how about those who are saved and going to heaven? In the very next chapter it says there's 144,000 saved. Shall we add it up and see if we can break the code? How much is 1 plus 4 and 4? 9. It depends whether you're dwelling in the angelic 9 or in the beastly 9. Okay? We'll show you something very interesting. Open your book to John 21. John 21. And I'll show you something interesting. In John 21, Jesus says, if you want to catch fish, cast your net over to the right side. Now, I'm going to show you that he was not talking about fish. He was not talking about a boat. He was not talking about a net. Do you see John 21, verse 6? I don't know what page it's on those little Bibles. If somebody knows, fine. 110. Okay. John 21, verse 6. What did he say? Cast the net on the right side of the ship. Now, there is a code in the Bible that will tell you that it's not talking about fish. All right? And this is what I want you to see as soon as you get there. John 21, 6, he says, cast your net on the right side. And this is why I say he's talking about consciousness, meaning the right hemisphere of the brain. Look at John 21, 11. Simon Peter went up and drew the net to the land full of great fishes. How many fish did they catch? How many? 153. 1 plus 5 plus 3 equals? Yeah, that's right. All the way through the Bible, that remains consistent in various ways. And the reason that I brought it up, I wanted to show it to you here. If you look at Revelation 22:2, where we are, and we're almost done. But it's nice to understand it. Okay, in the midst of the street of it, on either side of the river, was the tree of life. Okay, we're saying now that this is in the right hemisphere of the brain, and let's see if we can find anything that would give us reason to say, okay, they're talking about consciousness, they're not talking about a tree. Let's use that same formula that we were using, okay? The tree, the 12 manner of fruit, comes down from the 12 signs of the zodiac. That's why there's 12 disciples and so forth. There's the 12 aspects of the brain, 6 on the left side, 6 on the right side, and the 12 aspects of the nervous system, which are in the sympathetic nervous system and the solar plexus. Look at something here. There are 12, look what it says, Revelation 22:2. It yields 12 manner of fruit. And this is to the extent of how they did this. 12 manner of fruits, okay? And it yielded, okay, every month. 12 manner of fruits times 12 months equals 144 equals 9. And you can do that from beginning to end of the Bible. It's always going to tell you it's talking about consciousness. And you're dealing here with people that wrote the Bible that are metaphysical people, mystical people. And their job was to hide this from the profane and allow those who seek within to see it. That's why Jesus Christ says, unto you is given to know the secrets of the kingdom, but to them who are without, it's all a parable. People who are without are seeing 12 trees lining up on the street, and every month they get a different bunch of fruit and say, boy, that's going to be good. When I get up to heaven, I'm going to eat all those prunes and all those pears and all that stuff, and they don't know absolutely nothing that it's going to add up to me 9, which is consciousness. That's exactly why Goliath is measured in cubits. When you go read about David and Goliath, Goliath's measurement is in cubits. And a cubit is 18 inches, so everything that you multiply against it is going to come out to be 9. When they built the ark, they built it in cubits. Again, 18 inches. It's always going to come out to be 9 because it's talking about consciousness. The ark is that place within you, and when that storm comes against you, you enter into that ark, and you take 2 of every kind, the duality of your nature. You take those soaring things, which is your spiritual nature. You take those wild things, which is your wild nature. You take that domestic stuff in there. You take that creeping, crawling part of your nature. You hide in that ark, and in that ark, they only had one window, and it was in the ceiling, because once you get there and that storm is pounding against you, the only place you can look is up, because when you look down and see what's coming at you, you're going to freak out and jump overboard. So they put one thing up there and say, just look up, look up, look up, look up. And then all of a sudden, what do? You get so damn negative, you send out a raven. This is it. I'm going down. This doesn't work. I'm freaking out. I can't handle this anymore. Let me out of here. It's all over. But then after you continue in that meditation deep within that ark of your consciousness, you send out a dove. And the dove comes with an olive branch of peace within you. And lo and behold, the same storm that set about to destroy you is used to lift you higher and higher and higher and put you on the mountaintop, where you step out on solid ground and all of that garbage is under your feet. That's exactly what that story is. It's a story of consciousness and psychology, and we've turned it into a Sunday school story, a kindergarten story, which we've missed it completely. But see, that's what it's about. Did you have a question? Cubits is a measurement. What are cubits? Excuse me. A cubit is a measurement that they used in the Old Testament times. Like we say a yard or a foot. A cubit was a measurement of 18 inches. Okay? They called it a cubit, but it equaled 18 inches. It's a good question. Nobody ever asked that before. What did he say? What did Benson say? Let me just finish this up. I promise only a few more minutes. Now, what it says in Revelation 22:2, and I'll just show you this, and we're talking about the fruit. So we understand here that we're talking about consciousness now, okay? We're talking about the renewed mind, see, where peace comes, Christ comes, and it says, and the leaves, Revelation 22:2, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. That means healing all of those aspects within you. What do leaves do? Leaves protect you from the heat, from the passion. And leaves take that which comes from that which is the consciousness, the air, and consume oxygen to give you life and breath. And the leaves are for the healing of the nation. Leaves also absorb the sun, see. They absorb that which is the Christ consciousness to give it to you. So that's symbolically the place within us which is of God is described. So that's why it's so important to meditate. So important because as you meditate, you start to experience what these people are talking about in symbols, symbolisms. Revelation 22:3 says there shall be no more curse. Okay? Why was there a curse? Because Adam ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Let me just show you something. Let me show you something. And please don't believe this. Don't. This is not doctrine. Nothing I've said to you before has been any doctrine. But I have a little thing that I believe. Adam, the center of life. In order to propagate the electrical energy of the atom, you remove an electron, and it starts to multiply. In order to propagate atom, we remove a rib. Can we then say that God propagated the species by splitting the atom? Why not? Why not? Isn't it beautiful? Certainly. So then it becomes an understanding to us. Took a rib out and made a woman? Is that what you are? Spare ribs? I just thought of that. That's not doctrine either. Wasn't bad, though. Okay? But the reason that I wanted to show you this, okay, is because according to, and the story of Adam and Eve is mythology. All right? It's mythology. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. It means it happened. But it's a symbolic story of a deep spiritual truth. You see? Adam is your physical body. Eve is your mental process. The serpent is your spine, which symbolizes the temptations of the flesh. Okay? That's why the serpent walked on its hind legs, because it's the spine. You take a look at a chiropractor sometime, they got that thing with that. That's the serpent, okay? So when Eve, your mind, is tempted by the desires of the flesh, the serpent, okay, and you decide, I'm going to do it, Eve has eaten the fruit. Now that's not the worst part. Once you act it out in the flesh, Adam has eaten the fruit. Then you realize you're naked, you've stepped out from under God's covering, you're exposed to all the evils. But of course, what do we have? We have two people running around looking for fig leaves in a garden somewhere. We've blown the whole thing. But it's consciousness. But Adam ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now, Buddha knew the tree of good and evil very well. See, he said everybody has a duality in their nature. Some people have one part that is very strong and another part is very weak. He says there are some people, for instance, who have a very strong desire to help other people. But they also have a very strong streak of anger, because there's a knowledge of good and evil in that. So he said, what will happen? This is what will happen. You'll bake some cookies, you'll bake some bread, you'll bake a little ham sandwich or whatever, and you'll take it over to sister. Say, sister, I'm so concerned about you. I want you to have this out of the goodness of my heart, because I'm so worried about you. But I want to tell you something. If you don't get off your butt and get out and do something, you can't depend on me. You can't be dependent on poor Rosita all the time. You're bringing a lot of this on yourself, you know. You see what I'm saying to you? And that's the way it is. But we'll think beautiful things, and as soon as you get a beautiful thing that'll come into your mind, there'll be this other negativity that'll come and say, wait a minute. I don't really... I'm going to jive. I ain't going to listen to it. You see, that's the way it goes. That's why it's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and you can't take the fruit out of it, because sometimes the fruit looks really good. It seems like a heck of an idea, and then you wind up with your sucking your thumb saying, well, I thought it was a good idea at the time. I didn't mean for, her to fall out of the tree. I was just, So where do you go? You go to the tree of life. And the tree of life is where? East in Eden. The right side. And there you are allowed, when you overcome, to eat of that tree. And there is no negativity, because there is no lower aspect of mind thought. It's all God thought. You see, when you take no thought, you cease to be yourself, and God exists, because where there is none of your thoughts, there is God. That's why Jesus can only be born of a virgin, because when the consciousness is free of all the stain of human thought, the consciousness is virgin, and the Christ can be born. All right? So as we eat from the tree in the garden, we do not find ourselves subject to the bitter experiences of the past. There is no more curse. And the throne of God, which is the divine wisdom in the Lamb, and which is the pineal gland of the brain, etc., the place of light, shall be in it. That is so beautiful for you to understand. Each one of you sitting in here have a pineal or a pineal gland of your brain. I'm going to show you something that I showed, I believe, Sandra? Catherine this morning, and I don't know if I showed you this or not, but if I didn't, I should have. And then we will go. But I want to show you something, okay? Come with me real quick, because there's some new folks here, and just look at something, and I'm going to show you. Give me the credit for this, okay? You have in the center of your brain, and Albert as a physicist can tell you, what they call a pineal gland. In the ancients, they called it pineal gland, P-E-N-I-E-L. Now it's called pineal, P-I-N-E-A-L. You could pronounce it pineal, whatever you want to call it. This is the aspect of what the ancients said was the single eye, the third eye, the seat of the soul. See a Hindu with a dot in the center of their forehead? You look on the back of a $1 bill, it's a symbol of that, okay? Doctors have no idea what it's for, other than it secretes what they call melatonin, which is a skin lightener, okay? Now, let me take with me to Matthew, in Matthew chapter 6. I want to just show you something, and then we'll shut it down. Matthew chapter 6. And if you can tell me what page that's on in those little Bibles I made, I'd like you just to see this for yourself, and then page 6 in the New Testament, okay? Just look with me. Give me the fact that you have in your brain, we'll call the pineal gland of the brain, or the pineal gland, which is the single eye. So I'll put this up here too, so you can say single eye. Okay? That's nothing to be afraid of. It's simply a part of your anatomy. It's put there by God for a particular reason. Medical science does not know exactly what the purpose of it. And of course, Albert, you can testify to that with your physics experience. But here I'm going to show you the purpose of it in the Bible, written 4,000 years ago. But first, take a look at Matthew 6, verse 22. Jesus Christ, in speaking mystically, said, "There, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light." That means you will fill with wisdom and understanding. Now, what we're saying, the single eye is known by the ancients as the pineal gland of the brain. All right? Okay, go with me to the book of Genesis. Shouldn't have too much trouble finding it because it's the first one. Genesis 32. All right? Now, we're going to set the scene for you. Here is Jacob wrestling with God, wrestling with an angel. That means when you're wrestling with yourself. You know, did you ever do that pace of, I don't know what I'm going to do, you're pulling your hair out, and you're screaming and squirming, I don't know what, everything's coming to an end. Suddenly, he has an encounter with God. Now, it says his thigh is put out. I don't know if you remember that. His thigh is put out. Well, the reason his thigh is put out is because in mysticism, the thigh is that area of the anatomy that represents desire. Got it? His desires to have things his own way were broken. Once his thigh was put out and he no longer had that desire to have his own way, then he could see God face to face. Cut. That's why his thigh was put out. Genesis 32. Now, he sees God face to face, and he's going to name the place where he saw God. Remember, Jesus said, if your eye be single, we call the thing the pineal gland of the brain. Genesis 32, verse 30. And Jacob called the name of the place. What do you call it? Come on. Peniel. For I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. Now, if you're prepared to allow your thigh to be put out, if you're prepared to subject your desires to meditation and allow that which is the bliss of that inner Christ consciousness to overwhelm and take you above the thoughts of your own mind, that's having your thigh put out, you will then experience that which is the single eye. The pineal gland of the brain, the pineal gland of the brain will start to go in action. It's an interesting thing, Albert, I'm sure that you showed me too in the book, that when you are alert and you are seeing light on the outside, the pineal gland closes down. When you are in darkness and it is all within you, the pineal gland becomes activated. See, when you're in charge, it's closed. When you give up, it opens up. And so here you saw it, the single eye. Look on the back of a dollar bill. You'll see it, the single eye, the third eye, the seat of the soul. And 4,000 years ago, Jacob said, I'll call it Peniel, for I have seen God face to face. And each one of you sitting right here in this room has that place within them. And you've been wrestling and wrestling and wrestling with the desires of your for so long. But now you know from the patriarch of the most ancient times that what he had, you have. Submit those desires to the crucifixion by meditation. Rise your energy up to that pineal gland of the brain. Allow that chrism to flow back up into the pineal gland, and you will see God face to face. Thank you.